Hi there. Today I am making the zuppa Toscana soup, at least my version of it. And that's a soup that has kale, a sausage, potatoes, and just it's yummy and it's nice for this weather. It has been snowing. And so I just wanted to share this recipe with you. And as I'm cooking, I'll probably just be, talking about other things. But that's what we're doing today. So welcome to the channel. My name is Janet. And I'm excited that you're here. Thank you for joining me. And let's get into it.
I don't know if you're like me. I really feel like in winter, especially when it has been snowing for a long time and you're kind of stuck, indoors, I really like to make soups. So I don't make a lot of soups in summer. I usually do soups in winter. They're just cozy and in some way just bring comfort. So this soup I'm making today, it's a zuppa Toscana, which is an Italian soup, and it's a basic soup, which I love. It's easy. It's something that you can do in about 30 minutes or less, and it goes well with like French baguettes or whatever bread you wanna go with it, wanna have with it. So it's mainly potatoes, uh, sausage, and kale. That's like the three main ingredients. And it's something you can make in less than 30 minutes, which I also love. Just having three kids, it makes it easy to prepare a quick meal and have that ready. So what you do, which is you're gonna be watching this as I'm preparing the dish. But basically what you do is, peel some potatoes, cut them up in small sizes, boil them, and you don't really want to boil them for a long time because once you combine everything, they'll just start to crumble and become mushy. So you have to be careful that you boil them, but not, until they're mushy. And you fry some sausage. I like to add some little bit of onion in my sausage, and put some spices. I usually do garlic, pepper, and paprika. Those are like the three main spices that I use in most of my cooking. Those are like the basic foundations for a lot of the cooking that I do. So you fry your sausage, and just to go on a tangent. So I think I had this soup maybe 10, 15 years ago at some Italian restaurant, and I loved it, but I do this with a lot of recipes that I find. I try it and then I think, how can I make this better, or how can I tweak it to my own taste buds? And that's kind of what I do with a lot of recipes, and that's what I did with this one. So I realized a lot of Italian restaurants that sell this, it's kind of watery and it's kind of like the sausage. I don't know, there's not a lot of sausage, there's not a lot of kale, or the kale that they use, I don't really like it. So anyway, that's kind of how I got into doing this recipe at home, and the fact that it's fast and in 30 minutes or less, it makes it something that works well for me and my family. So back to the recipe, you fry your sausage, you add some onions, fry that for a while, and then you add kale. And really, kale, you can add it to like the sausage. In this recipe, I think I added it to I'm adding it to the sausage directly, but sometimes I combine the sausage and potatoes, and of course you have to put the heavy whipping cream, which makes it just yummy. And so you combine, once the potatoes are like el dente, kind of not totally done, you combine the potatoes with like 2 or 3 cups of heavy whipping cream. You put your sausage, which you have fried with some onions, and then kale. And you can just combine that and let it simmer. What you don't want to do in this recipe, which usually happens, is that you don't want the kale to like, start getting brown. So you don't wanna simmer this for too long. Just enough for the kale to cook and to still have some crunchiness to it. And yeah, you can also add cheese. If you're someone who likes Parmesan cheese, you can add that. I usually don't put that in when I'm cooking. I just let people do that once they are, eating. And I also serve this with the bread. So whatever kind of bread you like, French baguette, Italian, whichever bread you like, but you can just use this. You can eat the soup with some bread. So it is just a very, very, I don't know, yummy soup. And of course, don't forget to add salt because you need some salt. But that's really kind of like the basic recipe for this dish. And again, it's quick. It's a kind of an all-in-one meal for a family. Kale, potatoes, protein, And in terms of the protein, the sausage you can use, I like to combine the sweet Italian sausage with like just regular plain sausage sometimes, or just pork sausage. What I found is if I just use all of the Italian sausage, it ends up, because the Italian sausage comes with spice itself, and it's kind of can be overwhelming. So I do half and half. I do maybe a pound of sweet Italian sausage, and then a pound of just regular sausage. This way, it's not the Italian sausage doesn't overwhelm the dish, because I think I've tried it before and it does, at least in my opinion. But if that's what you like, you can just do whatever you like, because at the end of the day, you have to make the things that you enjoy. And that's what I do with recipes, is tweak your recipes so that they end up tasting the way that you enjoy them. I don't believe you have to stick with exactly the recipe as you have learned it, or if somebody's shown you. You just do a recipe and tweak it until it suits your own taste buds, because we all have, different taste buds according to how we grew up, what we grew up eating, and all that jazz. So that's kind of the recipe. But I wanted to talk to you about, you're talking about comfort, and this soup being something that kind of brings comfort. I wanted to talk a little bit about the discomfort that we have sometimes when we're going through a healing process or transition or whatever that we may be going through in our lives. And, since this channel is mainly for women over 40 and the things that we go through, I like to touch on those kind of things. Like, we know that we need to heal. Maybe something happened to you, or maybe you've been through something, and because not all the time is something happening to you. Something, you could just be going through a very difficult transition, and not necessarily that somebody's doing something, but the process itself is a painful process. And so how do we go through these things that we know there's after the transition, after the pain, after whatever we've gone through, the other side, we know what's on the other side is healing, is a renewal, a new life, new beginnings. But how do we manage the discomfort? Because I do believe that a lot of times the reason we don't want to go through a process that may be painful, right? A change of career, moving from one business to the other, starting something new, letting go of something, starting over. The reason we're reluctant to do all that a lot of times is because we are afraid of the discomfort that comes with it, right? There is a pain that comes with you making a decision to change. There's a lot of discomfort you're going to have to go through in relationships with people, the confusion sometimes that you yourself feel, and just a lot of emotional things that come up. And mainly I'm talking about the things that are happening within us, internally, less of what is happening outside, but the things that we are struggling with, the discomfort that we have to wrestle with in these things as we're going through transition or whatever is happening in our lives. And that discomfort, a lot of us shy away from it. A lot of us then don't do anything to change because we don't want that discomfort. And when you think of that, the example of how we get pearls, right? We know that the oyster has to have friction for years and years, to be under pressure for years and years for it to then bring out this beautiful pearl. And I think the longer that the oyster is under the pressure, the more the pearl is gonna be, more beautiful. So there's a discomfort that happens for the beauty to then come out. And I do believe a lot of times there is a discomfort, there is even pain that you might have to go through, and emotional. I'm not talking about you being exposed to physical pain. No, I'm just talking about there's a kind of pain of wrestling within yourself that we have to go through a lot of times in transition, a lot of times when we're starting over, a lot of times when we are letting go of something and it's not comfortable. And so when we are people who, I know this because I have faced this, where going through different transitions that I've had in my life, I'm aware that there's going to be some discomfort. There's going to be some stuff that you're like, resisting and you are struggling and wrestling within yourself that are very difficult, but they have to be done for there to be beauty afterwards, for you to then experience a beautiful life, or for you to gain the things that you want. There is a lot of the discomfort that you have to. So if we're people who are afraid of discomfort, or who are always looking for the comfortable thing, it's very hard to transition well. And I want to speak to, if you're someone who is living in the West, and we have a lot of comfortable things. I watch a lot of stuff just for learning and the things that come up on your YouTube stuff. But when people, I love to travel, so I watch a lot of videos about traveling and about people moving to different places. So I moved from my place of birth, where I was born, and I moved to the US. So I've already moved abroad, as they would call it here, because you see a lot of things about moving abroad, and the anxiety and the discomfort, and how some people would move to Europe and then be like, oh, I couldn't handle their culture, I couldn't handle their bureaucracy, I couldn't handle their whatever, and they come back because the discomfort is a lot, right? So I've been here over 25 years in America, and yeah, I guess because I came here when I was young, I don't remember ever considering the discomfort. I was excited to come, and I'm somebody who loves to travel and see different countries, so I never think of it as an issue to go somewhere else, to start over, whatever. But I understand a lot of people do, especially people who were born in America or born in Europe, and they have to move to a different place, or want to move to a different place. But when I watch these videos, what I notice is that the fear people have of the discomfort that comes when you're making a transition, when you decide you maybe want to move to a different country, and all the things that you're going to have to deal with that are not at all like, the country where you came from, or where your place of origin. And that in itself, people have a lot of fear of the discomfort, because they're so used to the comfort that they have. And having lived here all these years, I can understand that the fact that things are so easy for us here. If you're anywhere with someone who's got a job, or whatever the lifestyle that you have in the West, you have, a lot of comfort at your fingertip. There's Amazon. You just have to click, tap your finger. And the thing is there tomorrow. The water is running. The electricity is there. And life can be very comfortable, that we tend to then develop a resistance to anything other, that is different from what we're used to. And this then happens in not just in us thinking of moving somewhere else and starting over, but even of moving from a job, or even from moving from, stopping the business that you had and starting something else, or starting a new business from being an employee. All those things can cause, there's a discomfort that comes with it. And a lot of people are not prepared for that, because they would rather live with the discomfort or whatever the way things are than for them to move and to change and to see the beautiful thing that could be on the other side, right? Because people get very comfortable. We get comfortable, with that. And I see that when it's winter and I have my soup and I have my sweaters and my blankets and I have the fire going in the fireplace. Like, I don't want to move. I don't even want to get off that couch to go to bed, because I am so happy, I'm so comfortable, and it just soothes your soul, right? But then we tend to do that with other things, even the things that are horrible that needs to change in our lives, even the situations that are not so good for us and they need to change. We can get to that place where we are very comfortable and we don't want to deal with the discomfort. The thought of going through the change, the transition can just be itself enough to stop people from doing anything, from transitioning, from making the changes that they need to make. And this is in every area. And I was talking about the moving, just watching videos about people who are, who have moved to Europe or who are moving here, but mainly, Americans moving to Europe. And just reading comments sometimes of how people, it's fascinating to me, but it's so true of what happens to us when we are comfortable and we get used to our comfort, and we tend to not want to get out of that, right? And sometimes something terrible has to happen for people to be forced to make a move. And I believe that, in all of us, God has given us the grace to be able to move into whatever the next thing He has for us. And as a Christian myself, I realize that sometimes we don't move into the things that God has for us because we are afraid of that discomfort, and we miss out on, maybe the best years of our lives that are to come. And a lot of times, I think from the studies that I've seen, a lot of people's lives actually start flourishing in their 50s. That if you look at, all the great people, Christians and non-Christians who have achieved a lot of things, a lot of stuff they did when they were over 50 years old. So, this chapter we are in, late 40s into 50s, 60s, 70s, is not like a chapter where you're like, I'm just going to wait and retire and, sit on a couch with a rocking chair and die. No, because these are actually, according to the studies that are out there, they're actually your most productive years. So if we're afraid of the discomfort that it may take for us to move into the new chapter, to move into this new thing that God has for us, to move into this person that we are to become, if we're so afraid of discomfort, we are cutting ourselves short. Right? We are actually doing ourselves a disfavor. We are damaging our own destiny. We are not doing what's really best for us, in our best interests. Because if we're allowing the fear of the discomfort, if we're allowing the discomfort, the potential discomfort that would come with change to stop us from doing what we know we're supposed to do, from moving or, changing jobs, changing careers, or starting something new, whatever it is, we are really like cutting, we are the ones who are determining our destiny and cutting our destinies short instead of really moving full on into what God has for us. So you cannot heal, you cannot move forward if you are not willing to go through the discomfort. If you're also not willing to do what it takes. So nothing is going to change in our lives if we're not willing to do what it takes. And I'm speaking even to myself, because there are certain areas in my life that I know that, you know, I need to do what it takes. I need to push myself here to achieve this. I need to do this. And I'm not talking in terms of, pushing ourselves and getting burnout and, the productivity stuff that you're pushing yourself. No, but just pushing yourself out of that discomfort zone. I mean, out of the fear of the discomfort, saying, I'm gonna walk through this, and I know it is not forever. And what I have tend to do now is I really start to think, like, I can do anything for 2 years. I can do anything for 5 years. I can do anything for 10 years. If God has called me to do something, I'm going to do my best to step into it and know that I can do this for the next 2 years and see what happens. I can do this for the next 5 years if I have to, and see what happens. Because anyone can do something for a year. Anyone can do something for 2 years if they put their mind to it. And if we start looking at time that way, then the discomfort that we're going to have to go through, if we're saying, I can do this for 2 years, the discomfort is not going to be so, you're not going to be, I guess, afraid of the discomfort. If you're just like, I'm going to give myself 2 years to try this. I'm going to give myself 5 years to try this and see what happens, and go through the emotions and go through the disappointments and go through the discomfort and go through whatever you think you're going to go through that you think will be so terrible. Because the fear of the discomfort a lot of times is also the fear of what people are going to say, people are going to think about us. So all those emotions and thoughts and stuff and beliefs we have are always a lot of times fighting against our own good and our own destiny. But there is no pearl without the discomfort. There is no a better future without you and I going through the discomfort. There is no healing without the discomfort. And going back to healing itself, just the emotional healing sometimes that is needed. There is no healing if you don't go through the discomfort of addressing the things that have to be addressed, and looking the thing in the eye and addressing it and dealing with it. So whichever area you want to look at, there will be some discomfort. In any time that you want to grow, there's going to be some discomfort. You can imagine the seed that we put in the ground, right, for a tree. It has to work its way through the soil. Whatever type of soil it is, it has to work its way through for that plant to come out. There is a lot of friction and discomfort in that act itself of growing. So anything that has to grow, you and I growing into whatever it is that we want to be, we're going to have to face the discomfort that comes with life and with decisions that we make, and also with us wanting to move to the next level, with us wanting to transition into this, next chapter of our lives. So I would say, you and I, we have to learn to welcome the discomfort, to look forward and anticipate the discomfort, to be okay with the discomfort, knowing that it's not going to last forever, that you and I can do anything for the next 2 years or 5 years if we have to. But knowing that, in this discomfort that we are going to go through, there is a better ending. There is a better future. There's a beautiful, beautiful life after the discomfort. With, as we're growing, as we are moving into whatever we're moving into. So this is kind of just what I wanted to share with you. Just, of course, as I listen to things and I watch things, and I am very interested in a lot of things, and a lot of travel stuff just fascinates me. Again, because I love to travel, so I like to share some of the things that I see or that I'm experiencing. But my word to you, and I'm not here, as a coach, whatever, but just to share things and to uplift you, to say you can do anything for the next 2 years. And if you have to go through some discomfort to achieve the things that you want to achieve, to be the woman that you want to be, to turn your life around, to change maybe relationships that you're not happy about, to make changes in your life, and there's a discomfort, it's better to go in, deal with that discomfort, so that you are not just living a mediocre life. Because what's not wanting to deal with discomfort does is that we end up settling. And we settle for a very mediocre life, a life that God never intended for you and I. And I am kind of just in a place I'm like, I'm tired of having a mediocre life. I don't want a mediocre life. So if I have to go through discomfort of, changing the types of relationships I have with people, friendships, family dynamics, then I am willing. If I have to change careers, if I have to change businesses, if I have to move to a different place, a different country, if I have to do anything, I want to be that person who can have the courage to go through the discomfort and come out the other end, so that I can actually live a life that is fulfilling, a life that is the life that I was meant to live. And I know for sure I'm not meant for mediocre. And I know for sure you are not meant for mediocre life. We are not meant to survive life. We are to enjoy our lives and make a difference. So that's all I wanted to share as I'm cooking and doing other things. I just wanted to share, just my thoughts about this issue of discomfort and doing things despite, the discomfort that comes with it. And actually, maybe sometimes you might just need to seek a little bit of discomfort to have a kind of thrilling life, a life that is full of thrill, where you go on adventures, even though it's very uncomfortable, because it's not just dealing with internal stuff, it's also having the courage to face discomfort on things that are also exciting and scary. So there's two ways to this discomfort, but I just wanted to talk to you today about just, saying to yourself, I can do anything for the next 2 years or 1 year, whatever time frame you think you need to walk through the pain, to walk through the change or the transition. You can do it. And we can do it. For some of us, especially, if you're a Christian, we know God is with us. So there's nothing we cannot do there's nothing we cannot do with Him. So, and that is in itself very very comforting to us as Christians. But no matter where you are in your relationship with God, I just want you to know you can also do this. And if you set your mind to it and face the discomfort and say, my life, my future is worth me going through this period of discomfort to get where I need to be. So that's all I had to say. I'm not going to continue rambling, but I'm so glad you're here and tuning in, and I hope you get inspired with this, the February recipe that I had for the soup, and that you go out there and you try some of your recipes and try out, cooking if you like cooking or whatever it is you like, and get out of your comfort zone, really, and try the discomforts and do things that make you feel alive and happy and give you joy. But that's all I have to say. I will